Welcome everybody back to the castle. Hopefully all systems a go. I'm Sir Ivory Knight. I'm here, of course, with Sh0ppo.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome
And
back to the castle. I hope everybody's doing great so far.
yeah, we got the new DevDiary, so that should keep our spirits up at least till the next DevDiary. Knowing the release date is still in question and to be far away into the future. So we'll have to just make do with these dev diaries as content. What the dev diary is today is this royal family. And so I'm just going to go quickly over the summary on that. More or less, they kind of kept a very similar feel as to what was in the previous game, where you had like a king and a queen, and and then they would have children. But what is somewhat more important is that they have uh, also included the significance of siblings. So if you're becoming a king, your brothers are also important, and also your sister's important too for marrying purposes. I'm not Sh0ppo.
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
I know you're addressing the important relatives, right?
Yeah. Well, but anyways, you kind of use mostly your family for often royal marriages, which represents one of the more stronger bonuses in the kingdoms in terms of diplomacy. So the more children you have, you can marry them off and solidify alliances and things like that. Um, Also, when you hire a sibling, for example, into your royal court, they don't take any money, so they're maintenance free, which is an advantage as opposed to just hiring a random knight off the street. And they also have various bonuses, I believe, based on their what they call traits, which are like the specs on a individual person. What is also important about that is you can kind of, when you marry somebody, those children will have specs that are close to the specs of the parents. So it's basically genetics. You have people who are smart, they have kids, and they the kids will be smart. So that makes a bit of a strategy there to like kind of pick and choose who you marry your children off to, because obviously you want your dynasty to have higher and higher traits and specs. Uh, Finally, yeah, and then if all your relatives die, so first, if the king dies, your crown will drop down to, of course, whoever you've designated as heir, one of your children. But if you have no children, then the crown gets designated to one of your brothers. But if you have no brothers, then the crown will get designated to a royal court knight. Um, Another cool thing is but this was kind of in the stream, less in the diary. That if you have below 7 provinces and you have a death of your king and no one to inherit, uh, I think I don't know if it's no one to inherit totally or if it means the inheritance goes to a person that's in the royal court. Uh, then there's a chance that the kingdom will split. Uh, but if you're below 7 provinces, you have no chance for a splitting kingdom. So
I think
you
I
only
think
get. Sorry.
in Knights of Honor it was depending on how happy your population was, whether the kingdom splits or not, I think.
Yeah, they probably have a very similar system imposed here, but at least there's a cutoff point with province count. So if you have below 7 provinces, there's no potential split for your kingdom. So
All right. Yep, yep.
this splitting only can threaten you once you're bigger. Which I suppose acts as a check to bigger kingdoms, helps keep the game a bit more balanced. Also, govern provinces that are governed apparently cannot split, so you can kind of send your governors to specific areas, and that would prevent them from segregating out of your kingdom. Um, and that's basically everything I got from the dev diary itself and the dev stream in terms of mechanics that are involved here. There's no inheritance in terms of up lineage. It's only ever sideways or down, and by what I mean by that is it's only ever your brothers or your children.
Yeah. And I think a detail you missed is that, like in Knights of Honor 1, if you don't get, or if you don't marry off your king to another princess or queen, he most probably will just marry a local noble lady sooner or later. I mean, we
Yes.
already know this, right?
Yep. But of course, they mentioned that the kind of the disadvantage of that is, well, you don't get that relationship boost with kingdoms and
Yeah,
the specs, because the traits of the random person that your prince might marry could be really bad. Um,
yeah, that was very interesting from from the stream. What they told us, that if you're, especially if you're prince, if you marry your prince to another princess or queen, whatever, when they get married and your prince becomes king, he will get all the points that the queen brings with her.
yeah.
So they add up, and you can like get a pretty tough king, right?
Did they mention that they only start to have children once they are, like, there's a threshold, either like an age or a that once they have the
Mm,
crown?
just a second. Oh, hi, Sh0ppo. Nice to read you. That's great to read. I hope you enjoyed our videos. And if you have any questions, right, just step
Yeah.
into our
Th-
discussion. We would love to hear your opinions.
throw them in.
Um,
Uh,
I have no clear idea, but I think they only count the children that get married into the royal family once you're the king. And they also told us that there's a maximum of children that
oh
you can have.
yes, yep.
And it's a maximum of 4 children, depending on that. I think there's a detail or as well, that you like have 4 children per queen. So if you have another queen, it may
Oh,
differ. Yeah.
interesting. So you could divorce to have more children.
Yeah,
Ah,
maybe.
that would be
But
pretty fun.
the important thing to take away is, yeah, you have like one queen, and you normally can get a maximum of 4 children, right?
Yeah. And they also mentioned that the statistical chance of each being a male or female is 52% to be male, and
Yeah,
because they're
yeah.
they're actually making that strictly realistic, because apparently
Yeah,
that's
they
the
took it
the real life chance of a male and
from
female.
real life statistics.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, which I don't know. How do you feel about that? Like it, it's is clearly more important that you have a male to inherit the throne, right?
yeah.
And that might make the gameplay feel like what's the of 4 children times 0.5, right? That's the statistical chance of something
Yeah,
every
I think
game that you.
it's just a minor detail, which, I mean, would it be 60 to 40 or 70 to 30, just for easier gameplay? Then you definitely would recognize it, but 52 to 48, I don't think. Oh, Sh0ppo is writing that he thinks they said the princes can have children before they become kings. What happens to the children
Okay.
then? I mean, you just get, when the prince becomes king, you just have a little bit older children, right? Probably.
Yeah, that's what I would imagine. Yeah, but kind of what I meant about the 52% about males is that uh, because males are so important, what's the chance of when you play through a game that you end up getting only females? Maybe that's quite
Yeah.
high with a 52% chance of male, right? Maybe that ends up happening every time you play for like 30 minutes, you
Mm.
always get a all female inheritance. That might, and maybe that is really annoying to deal with in terms of gameplay aspects. I don't know. These are kind of questions I think need to get our hands on the game to experience. But then again, that could be pretty fun, and maybe is that realistic that there's always big inheritance problems. I mean, is from what I know of history, were a lot of inheritance problems.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not a bad idea.
I just rechecked in the dev diary. So I think Sh0ppo, you're right. What I recalled was it is maybe you can show it. It is after screenshots 1, 2, 3. After the third screenshot, there is
This one,
um
a prince was born.
it's knights the next one, and then it says if you scroll down a little bit more, so a prince might inherit the crown rather late in their life, and it's risky to leave them unmarried as their remaining time may not be sufficient for raising an heir. Important detail: if your prince is only a child, he cannot become king. Like that's different than in Crusader Kings, because you can have an emperor who is only 4 years old, which happened to me recently, and then he has to wait until he's 16 until he really can do business.
Yeah.
But it continues to say, therefore, it is a good strategy to marry your princess soon enough, though their children are not part of the game before a prince becomes king. But now the important sentence that I missed: if they are married prior to succession of the throne, there is a chance that they will already have one or more children upon becoming kings. Yeah, yeah,
I think that's what they said though, that they changed just recently.
they change. Okay,
That might be, but I could be wrong. You have to watch the real dev stream.
yeah. Let's take what we can read here.
Yeah, let's do that for now.
I have no idea on what they told
Um,
us.
but with regards to
No.
I wrote this comment down and I forgot to bring it up. With regards to the 52% chance for males, I thought it'd be pretty cool and quirky if you could do like a religious offering to like increase that chance. Because back in the day, everybody was obsessed with having males. The kings were all obsessed with having males all the time.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe you could like consult with like your priests to or pray to God to have a male kind of thing, and that would like increase your percent by like 5, or depending on the event you do. Some are
yeah,
useless and some are actually work.
yeah.
I think that could be fun.
You should mod it. You should
Yeah,
mod it into the
it
game.
would be a good thing to mod, I think.
Do some I don't know, cult stuff to get more male
Yeah.
successors.
um
All right, I think we covered quite a lot,
Yeah,
and we
there's
can
some
switch
other
over
points
to
that I can
the
bring up.
questions. Yeah,
So
yeah.
one was the traits, the specs that you get, you
Ah,
cannot
yeah,
increase by training. It's all like a
cool.
genetic thing.
Yeah,
So like once you get them, you get them. Um, can't adjust them by buildings or anything like that. They're very much attached to the character.
oh yeah, right. They told that in a stream. Yeah, I
Then
think it
all
was it was from a question. Somebody asked this question, I think.
Yeah, it was a question. And then another question was how does the inheritance work in different governments? And the answer was just, well, there's no different governments really.
On the monarchy. Yeah,
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 everything is just kingdoms, and I mean that makes sense to the historical perspective of the time period. And like they said, it would be a mess trying to actually create whole different gameplays and kingdom structures for all the different types of
yeah,
democracies and other things
yeah.
that
It
may
would
have
be a different
existed during the
game.
time, or government forms.
And you ask about the princesses,
Yeah, well,
whether
I
they can
I
become
asked
the
if they
king's
can
sovereign.
inherit,
Yeah.
and I was also mostly I was curious if you could inherit up lineage. So if your cousins would inherit, because I know that happened at least in that's kind of the one of the precursors to the Hundred Years' War with France and England is
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
everybody, basically all the brothers and all the children died of the the French king, and so they had to inherit through the cousin, and then there was a big claim battle because of all that. Uh, so that's where I that's at least what thoughts came to my mind when I asked that question. And of course, the answer was that they princesses cannot inherit at the present moment, and you don't inherit up lineage, only
So
sideways or down.
there will be no sovereign queens in Knights of Honor 2. That's
No.
what it basically says. Yeah.
Do you think there should be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there have been in history. I know I'm always the guy that says like bring it more to the fun part and maybe skip some of the historical accuracy. But in at this point, why not have the queen in depending on the country, on the kingdom, right? Not in general, but only depending on the culture,
Maybe like a
the
pagan country would be more
pagans.
likely
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Also,
Or maybe later in the game because in medieval times you had like
it could just be
good
another potential inheritor and have that give your kingdom a really bad stability drop, or an option. Maybe it's like, oh, you have no more male relatives, would you like to access your female
change,
relatives for this negative multiplier,
quickly change the law. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have loved to seen some queens in a game actually. But I can somehow understand that is the decision that they made. I think it's Knights of Honor typical to only have male kings. And not only kings, but there is like a whole lot of other titles.
Yep. One thing that I thought was really cool was this was also a kind of question, but I kind of just wrote the answer, so I don't really know what the question was. You can recapture your brothers or relatives whom are
Ah,
in
yeah.
other kingdoms. So I forget how that
That one.
works. If you, I guess it's if you marry off one of your children, and then, uh, or no, I forget how this all worked. I think,
Okay,
yeah. Can you explain it?
can lay it out. Yeah, it was actually Calliope who asked it. Um, the basic question was, what happens if your brother has an own kingdom? So, is he still considered as part of your royal family? And the answer to this is clearly no. As soon as he joins another kingdom or founds his own kingdom, he's no longer considered part of your royal family, and there's no way back. But I didn't get from acoustically what Alex was saying. There are some circumstances, and that's what you're pointing out. Um, that you can forgive him, you can invite him back to the royal court, and you can even make him successor to the throne. But don't ask me on the circumstances. They didn't get in too much into detail, and I couldn't understand what Alex was saying there in the
What I have
beginning of
written
the
here is
games.
that if you recapture your brothers, you can then offer them like forgiveness and re-bring them back into the fold of the
So
family.
I have to take him prisoner, or
I think
how does
so.
this
I
work?
think that's how it is. But that's
Okay,
cool,
yeah, yeah,
nonetheless.
yeah, could make sense.
Your
I mean,
question. Oh, yeah.
it may be a nice decision or a tough call to if you don't have any male successors and there is his brother doing his own thing, and you just try to make him a prisoner of yours, and then hey, it's all right, you can still become king of us. I don't know
um,
what will happen to the other kingdom though. Will they merge?
no, because I think they would go through their own succession, right? Dependent on. their own conditions. Anywho, your question with messages about so actually, well, you say it. It was your question.
Yeah, I think you got it on screen
I do.
now. Yeah, the Thessalonians got angry, and that happened due to some royal marriage. And my question basically was, what is happening, and what made the Thessalonians so angry about that?
Yeah, like I went
And
back and I checked this image out and I was like, what are you talking about? I read it and it was like, oh, they're mad about a royal marriage.
yeah,
So
I mean, it's just you're getting married and somebody else gets angry about it, and I was just asking, why is that?
yeah,
And there were two answers, a more general one, and it is just that some other kingdoms are reacting on all the important diplomatic decisions that you're taking. So that's basically what happened here.
yeah. They
If you
the
get
word they
married, some
used
may
was
like it.
flavor. So these are
Flavor,
just flavor messages that kind
yeah,
of, give you an indication of what's happening in the world. So it's how other countries are perceiving you
yeah.
for what you're
And
doing.
but now comes the very interesting part, because they dug a little bit deeper into it. Um, and the info we got here, and I love to hear this one. My question already was answered, but they got a little more into detail. Um, it can be that some kingdoms just don't like each other, or they were at war recently, and if you marry into one of these kingdoms, or it's some of the rival kingdoms, they sure don't like that. And in Knights of Honor 2, it is that the kingdoms do have some kind of memory, so they remember what happened in the past, and they may throw it back at you, and they work in some kind of context. So, talking about the AI, what will happen is that if there is an AI opponent that really hates you, and he's just going to strike war on kingdoms that you yourself don't like, in order to get other kingdoms closer with them, form closer relationships, maybe even alliances against you. And that's some kind of sneaky way that is happening around you. And then there's not, maybe there will not only be one kingdom attacking you, maybe they're too weak to take it, or it's too risky, and then they form this kind of like bubble that can work against you. And we're only talking about AI here. We're not talking about player decisions.
Yeah, because I remember as well in the stream, Brad mentioned that Vesa likes to, when he's at war with a country and he seems to be losing, what he does is he'll randomly declare war on the country's enemies. So
Yeah.
that country that he's losing against feels more friendly towards him. So
It's
I thought
so
that was an
interesting.
interesting tactic. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you're putting yourself into more wars potentially that could be worse. But I mean, if the other country is on the other side of the planet, then you don't have
yeah,
to be worried about them actually making contact with you.
yeah,
Uh, but so it just goes to show you that you have interesting ways to diplomatically work around with the AI, and then like you mentioned that the AI is actually dynamically trying to work against you.
yeah, yeah.
So that is really
That is
exciting.
interesting. Yeah, and I mean, what happens is that it's not only single countries, single kingdoms acting against you, and everybody's doing their own stuff, but it's related to each other. It's kind of like a network, and that is hella cool.
You know what's really cool about that is like that feels like a really good way to make the game hard, but
Hmm.
not in an completely unfair, unrealistic way, right? It's like
Yeah,
it's a behavioral change of the AI that makes them a harder opponent to play against, and I like that. Instead of a lot of Paradox games will just give your AI boosts of like they just get more income or get more resources, and it's like, well,
yeah,
the AI is not actually harder. You're just giving them more stuff, you know.
I mean, there can really interesting things happen that you don't have recognized so far. And I know maybe it makes sense to do a little more research before you attack a country. That's all also you could have done in Knights of Honor 1, but basically in Knights of Honor 1 you just rushed in. You could do it because if just check relationships between kingdoms and for sure the alliance, which I did at some point. And I think in here it may become a little more important.
Yeah, like with all these updates overall, I'm getting very macro perspective that you're gonna want to like build tall and expand slow. It seems like, at least on very hard AI or hard conditions or whatever circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get the feel like in Knights of Honor 1 where you could just like go through every country on your border willy nilly, um, and just expand across all of Europe instantly. I feel like this game you'll have to do kind of like you say, like a little bit of background search on your enemy. You gotta like click on them, find out their alliances, maybe identify a weakness here or there, and
Yeah.
then maybe if that opponent is too good, you have to search for another opponent, and or maybe you gotta protect yourself from other people, right, with spies and stuff. So there seems to be a lot more focus on your current kingdom and retaining your current borders, and
Yeah.
expansion seems much more difficult in
I think that
overall.
that's a perfectly good example for easy to get and hard to master.
Yeah.
It is easy to check. Like Sh0ppo is writing defensive pacts. Yeah. It can turn into defensive pacts. That what I got from the stream as well. That it is easy for a player to understand. I have to check what are the allies of somebody I want to attack. So easy. But if you dig a little deeper, if you understand the mechanics, if you grow into it, you may look for defensive pacts. Maybe you know it from espionage, which is important here. But you also look for relationships between a country, opinions on between other
And
countries
as they
to
said in the
gain
stream,
information.
you can look for the royal court, the royal family heirs. If that country has no
Yeah,
heirs, you could just spend a spy over, assassinate their king maybe, and then fracture their kingdom. You know, there's
yeah.
there's many. There seems to be a lot more feasible and impactful aspects in this game, compared to the
But
Knights of Honor one.
it is true what Sh0ppo is writing. Have you read it
I have
about
not.
Sh0ppo? You're writing. I think they could have talked more about the implications of espionage in royal succession. For instance, is it possible to bribe or influence an heir to the throne or his brother?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I think we got a little impression of this in one of the spies or espionage dev diaries, that you can always assassinate somebody or maybe imprison him.
Yeah, I'm curious if you can assassinate children and heirs and
Yeah.
stuff. That would be
And
interesting.
bribing could be interesting.
I I feel like that could be abusive. So maybe better to do what the person said there, that you can kind of you bribe to get them elected. So that way it can't be abused that like players just assassinate everybody's heirs, but you can like kind of sway which heir gets elected, which is not, it's like, oh shoot, now I got this heir instead of this one, you know.
That- well, I'm just thinking about scenarios for interesting bribing. I mean, what would make an heir um move to your country and not become the successor in another country? It could be that you're just saying you get 5 provinces from me, but you will
Oh,
not become successor.
jeez, that would be
And
a whole other mechanic. That's
that'd be a whole nother level, yeah. And then
fair.
you can just go like, okay, he's only got 5 provinces, I got 20. Go in there and take it back.
Oh, Yeah, that'd be terrible.
Or bribing in terms of changing that kingdom opinion about you. True.
uh, I mean, at
But
that point, wouldn't you
that's
just
not on
send
the
a regular
inheritance.
diplomat? Like, why? If you want to improve your opinion, why have a spy bribe somebody? That seems not like the best way to make another country trust you.
Yeah, true. But I just think, how can bribing in inheritance work out as well? But provinces? What else? You just give him a lot of money and he won't become king, and then he just fucks you over. He takes the money and the inheritance.
Well, they have that for the what was
I
it?
mean, that could happen. That could happen. They had it in the spies
Yeah.
Dev Diary, that you give people some money, or I think it was also with the merchants that they could do some stuff like this. Not 100% sure though. And then it can be that you give somebody money, but he still won't do what you
It was something to do with
intended him
rebels.
to.
I can't remember now.
Oh yeah, the rebel marshals. Yep,
Yeah.
yep, the rebel marshals. You're right.
Um, there's no demo to whatever event. There was an event coming up, and there's not going to be any
I didn't
new
get that. Yeah,
material.
I don't
So,
know
not
which
important
thing
though.
they were
They're
referring
not doing
to.
anything
Yeah,
for it. So,
yeah.
and then
Ooh,
they are looking to do music, Dev Diary.
that's what I wanted to address as maybe the last question for today.
Yep.
Of our friend Javor, who basically just asked on the music. Do you want to take the answer for it, Ivory?
Sure. Well, from what I remember, is that they have correspondence with some orchestras in the local area. Is it Belgrade that they program from?
I have no idea. I just remember that they're talking to different orchestras at the
Yes.
moment.
And so they're juggling between some orchestras, and they're figuring out which one they are going to work with. And it sounds like they have digital instruments, and then they take that and they tell the orchestra, I guess, to just play it. So then they have uh, real live music instead of digitized music. Um, so that's
Yeah, I
hopefully
know it
gives a bit
from
of a deeper feel or fuller sound to it.
I know that they did it for, I know, 1800, and I think the earlier games, and they also did it for Witcher 3. They had real life orchestras
Okay.
for the recordings. I don't know what's the standard in game development, and I think it depends. A
Yeah, I would
small,
imagine.
small development studio probably won't have real orchestra.
Well, anyways, I think the
Mm.
most important part is that the music fits what is happening and it is long enough that you don't get bored of it.
Yeah. So Xacobi is asking, do you have a favorite kingdom tradition from what has been shown?
I haven't really been keeping track of them. Kingdom
Yeah,
traditions.
it goes way back. I just got it up. It's Death Diary 10 about the traditions. They talked about chase and kill. We got shock charge for cavalry. First aid, I can see. Ah, there's the picture of you. The whiteboard, yeah, that was
Perfect.
his navigation. But I have no idea. I think for me it depends on the country. For example, we did um a run as the Mongolians, and we had only cavalry units, and it makes absolutely sense for the Mongolians to probably more improve the already pretty good cavalry skills than for if you want to go, if your strategy is to go plundering, then you should maybe get the tradition of plundering if there is one, which I think probably will be when they show gameplay, at some points they hover over traditions. I missed that. There is medicine.
I'm
I
more
have
interested in the kingdom
no idea.
traditions than I am in like the what are the lower traditions, the I guess the knight traditions, correct? The royal court traditions.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's always the first step, right? And traditions then will follow.
yeah.
That's how it is. So good questions. I can't really give you a sufficient answer. What about you? What do you think? What do you like?
It's gonna depend on the type of strategy I'm gonna be playing with, really.
Stewardship is
I'm
about
sure
stability,
there's gonna be
inflation. Yeah.
ample different types of traditions that will be in the game, and there's probably going to be some that we haven't even seen
Yeah,
before the game gets launched,
what I
and
like about strategy
I wouldn't
games is
think too much about it.
that you can react to what is happening. I mean, talking about the stewardship, with cheaper buildings and less inflation and stuff. If you're growing very quickly and you get a problem with inflation, then this absolutely makes sense. But in other situations, I'm not sure whether I would use that tradition.
Well, on
Stewardship
that,
and plotting are my go-to. Yeah. Yeah, plotting could be interesting. Hmm. I can see that.
screwed up the screen sizing. Or no, I'm just on the wrong DevDiary thing. On that though, I think we should wrap her up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Thank you guys for tuning in. Was a pleasure. Thank you on everybody on YouTube who tuned in, and then take care, and may the sun always shine on you.